With new reports raising the possibility of another shift in the balance of power in Washington, state-by-state analysis showing that Republicans are poised to keep control of the House, but they may also capture a majority in the Senate. And here's a map of the states that are in play. The GOP needs to win 4 seats. Right now, the party appears to be in good position to win between 2 and 5. So will it happen? Former Ohio Congressman Bob McEwen is a Republican, and former Pennsylvania Congressman Joe Sestak is a Democrat. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be back with you, Heather.
Good to be with you, Heather.
So we saw that map briefly there. The GOP only needs to gain 4 seats to take a 51-49 majority in the Senate, seize nominal control away from the Democrats. So there is a chance, as we said, that they could do it. What impact would that have on whichever candidate wins the White House in November? Congressman Sestak, I'll begin with you.
Yes, Heather. I think that right now the Democrats may hold on to the majority. And while I think whichever party has it will be a significant difference, it's not going to be defining. And that's because, frankly, Heather, both parties are broken. You know, they've come to understand or believe that whichever party is in the minority, that the only way to gain the majority is to make sure that the other side won't govern well. And so they use these arcane rules, particularly in the Senate, to make sure that the government grinds to a halt so that the electorate will believe the other party should become the majority. Look, Heather, everything has changed in the last century. You know, women gained the right to vote. We had the Internet. But the only thing that hasn't changed are the broken rules of the Senate, to where one senator can filibuster forever. He doesn't have to stand on the floor. I think if you can't fix the parties with better leaders or have a third party, at least fix the rules of the Senate so that you can at least have governance, and governance that's done well.
And Congressman McEwen, let's talk a little bit more about that. How do we get work done in legislation passed? Consider this. Say that it is President Romney and a GOP majority Senate. Would a minority Democratic Senate, would they try to push for a 2/3 majority filibusters to make Mr. Romney a one-termer, or would the GOP insist on up or down votes? And then say the opposite, say President Obama wins a second term. Would the two sides finally cooperate, no matter who has the majority, or does the GOP try to make him a lame duck? What happens?
Well, much of what Joe says is absolutely true. The fact is that the first years that he was in office, this president had a supermajority. Over 60 members of his party in the Senate. Republicans have never had that in the history of the United States, and yet for 3 years they have failed to pass a single budget. Now, the budget has to be passed every year. It's part of the law. They haven't passed it once. Now, that's the responsibility of the majority leader. And as Joe mentioned, that's the gentleman from Nevada. He refuses to do the basic business when he wanted to take over health care and Obamacare. He kept the bill on his desk in his private office, and certain members could go in and make amendments there and then sprung it on the floor, bypassing the committee process. So when you say that it's broken because of the people that we have there in charge. And I believe that if we were to change the leadership of the Senate, we could make significant changes, as we've seen in the House. The House has passed a budget every time. The Senate refuses to do so. And this fall, we're going to have an election in which we choose a new president and new members of the Congress. And I think we're going to have a sea change in the direction the country's been going.
And what about that, Congressman Sestak? Right. You know, let's talk about specifically the swing states, independent voters as well. Some of the biggest battles for Senate seats, they're in those swing states, likely also to see some intense presidential campaigning. Independent voters don't usually make up their minds until late fall. How much influence will the national trends have over these Senate races?
I don't think the national trend is going to have very much impact within the states. I think you see, whether it's Massachusetts, whether it's Ohio, where it very well may change from Democrat to Republican, that it's being influenced by the national mood. I think what you have found, which is most significant, is that voters have changed from moving out of the two parties to where now it is between the 30-yard lines. Almost, you have so many who identify themselves as independents, where it used to be between the 40-yard lines, that they are looking at things independently. It's unfortunate, but our two respective parties have been taken over by ideologues. So, you know, while the Democrats only had 59, not 60 votes until Mr. Specter changed parties, which got me into running, but really when you see Mitch McConnell, and he has said that, look, his number one objective is to stop whatever Mr. Obama is going to do. He's probably not being influenced by the national mood. What he's being influenced by is what he believes Kentucky needs. And so what you really have to have here are leaders who are willing to, after the election, try to work with the other side. The last time we've had a landslide is Mr. Reagan. So just having 2 or 3 or 4 more Republicans or Democrats isn't enough when a filibuster can stop everybody from doing good governance.
All right. Congressman McEwen, I have to wrap up, though, but you can jump in here and give your response quickly.
Let me just quickly say that I strongly disagree. I believe the country is going to make a change. I believe the Senate is going to make a change. It can work. We needn't say that our entire system is broken. The leadership is broken. As Reagan said on election night, there's nothing wrong with this country that proper leadership can't change. And a country went from floundering to leadership, and we can do it again.
We'll see
and
what
I
happens.
have to agree with that. With the right leadership in both parties, we can do much better.
Hey, you said you agree. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good
It is about leadership, willing to lose for the good of the American people.
Thank you both so much for joining us.
You,
we appreciate it.
Thank
you
very much, Heather. Good to be with you, Bob.